Welcome to the pod, where we're going to talk about
our thoughts, stories, and hot takes, but do it all respectfully, of course. So this week, we are switching up our setup a little bit. It is a blustery, cold, and gloomy day, so we figured we would just do a little cozy couch session.
Yeah, so today is kind of just going to be a little, travel interview with Lauren, since she has traveled the world, and I have traveled the Midwest. So, we're just going to ask her some questions and hear lots of her stories. My first question is, what are your favorite places you've traveled to?
I would say my top three. The first one I'll rank as number one. The other two are there's no specific order. But I will put Tanzania as my top. Just the landscape of it, and then you add the wildlife on top.
Mm-hmm.
It's so unique to that continent. I feel like you can see similarities between continents, but that one is just so specific.
Yeah, you can't really find a Tanzania dupe in the U.S.
You can't. And so that on top of the people, that just really pushes it over the edge. The people are amazing. We go there mostly for missions, and so we've gotten connected with a specific organization there, and so at this point they're pretty much just our family, so that's number one for me. And then I would say next we'll go with Italy. I don't know, Italy,
obviously,
but specifically Venice is truly unlike any other place I have been,
so it's worth the hype.
It is worth the hype. It really is. It doesn't feel real. It does not. It does not feel like a real place. It's almost as if it's a storybook.
Is that the one that's on water?
Yes.
Kind of? Okay.
Yeah, no. So we would wake up from our Airbnb, and once you're in the housing area, the streets are literally this tight. They're so narrow and closed in. So we would get up in the morning, we'd go out, we'd walk through our little tiny street, and it would open up into this big canal, and everything is boats. There is not a single vehicle or car, there's no roads in that sense. So you're either walking the little cobblestone roads or you're taking a boat.
Oh, that is straight out of a story.
No, it's just felt like this cartoon world that we were in. And so even the taxis, they're boats. Literally the garbage, they have garbage boats. When we would have to take our garbage out, you would go and you would dump it into this garbage boat. It's very interesting. But because it is on right on water, it's almost an island.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's all year round, but when we were there, at certain points of the day, the water will just start rising up and start literally flooding the streets. And so people will be wearing these plastic bag boots. Almost
just slightly less dreamy.
Yeah, that's probably the unglamorous side of it, but of course, you deal with it for a couple hours.
I feel I remember one time in school hearing about how Venice is gonna go all the way underwater.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I guess I don't know. But yeah, they also have just platforms throughout the city where once the water starts rising, you just hop up onto those and just keep walking. So those are the more interesting sides of it. But yeah, the architecture as a whole, it's just so, everything is pastel colored. It's the oranges and the blues and the pinks. But at the same time, they also have glamorous palaces and just super rich history.
Is it overcrowded because it's such a good tourist spot?
Yes, it is. There are definitely spots that are super busy, and we went in the winter, so it was pretty. It's nothing compared to summer.
Busy season.
I can't imagine it in summer because it would be just swarms of people. But I think if you go more in the fall and winter, it's honestly the crowds aren't too bad. But yes, and then in Rome, this isn't necessarily a part of the country itself, but we did a pasta cooking class, and literally one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was so fun, and yeah, if you go to Italy, you have to take a pasta cooking class.
Do you make the pasta from scratch?
Yes, everything is fresh. You get there, the place we went, and they just had music blasting, and they just have the biggest personalities, and they're giving you drinks, and you go back to the pasta, and they're showing you how to make it, and then you do it yourself.
What a fun job.
Yeah, I know. And then you make all the different types of pasta, and then they go cook it for you, and then they serve you the pasta that you just made.
That's so cute.
It was so fun.
I love that.
And then I would say number 3 would be Hawaii. like it's this exotic paradise. Like everywhere you go in Hawaii is just pretty. Like there's not an I have not seen an ugly piece of Hawaii. I mean, the ocean, first of all, before I went to Hawaii, I'd been to, you know, the Atlantic, the Pacific. But the water itself is so cold and murky. So it's like, I liked the beach. I never really like loved the ocean until I experienced the Hawaiian waters. They are so blue. They're crystal clear. They're so warm. And I know there are obviously dangers to the water.
Yeah.
But when I was out there, like, I had no fear of the ocean because I was just so like in awe of it.
Yeah. And like you said, you can see it a little better.
You can see everything. So it's like you're not kind of being like, oh, what's underneath me? Like,
did you go snorkeling?
I did go snorkeling. And yeah, I think you would honestly even enjoy it, even though you're afraid
I'm sure. I honestly would still love to go snorkeling.
Yeah.
I just do it a little scared.
Yeah.
That's kind of my motto by this point, because I'm so
but
scared
I really
of everything.
I don't think you would be afraid. Like, you get down there and you're just so focused on like what you're seeing. Like, I don't think you would be afraid.
But like the intrusive thoughts would just be like, shark.
Probably.
Right behind you.
Probably.
I'd be like scared to turn my head.
You just would just look straight and look.
But I'd still do it, and I'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I think you would.
Yeah. That's still on my bucket list of places to go to. There was a brief point in our friendship that we like fully were convinced that we were gonna move there short term. It was never gonna be like
it was after that. I came back and I'm like, Kayla, we're going to Hawaii.
And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Well, you actually almost moved to Hawaii. Do you remember that?
Yeah, for a brief time, because my dad was in the military and we moved a lot when I was a kid. And I remember we were here in like North Dakota by that point, and he's like, so guys, I did get a job opportunity in Hawaii. Like, he was one of a couple people or something that were like applying for the job or gonna get it, and he didn't end up getting the job in Hawaii. But like, of all the places we've had to move to, I'd be okay with leaving to go to Hawaii. Other places I'm like bummed about, but I would have taken Hawaii.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah. So I still have yet to go to Hawaii, and I've only heard about it.
Yeah.
But to me, like, that's certainly on my bucket list of places to go to. It's just a little pricey.
It is, yeah. Like, the mountains, too. I mean, on Maui, you have Mount Haleakala. And so it's this crater, basically, like this volcano. And you drive up it, and you get to the top and you just watch. Like, it felt like you were on a different planet, honestly. And they also have this observatory, so there's like this big spacecraft looking thing at the top. And so it just felt like you were on like Mars or something. But you just sit there. You can go for sunrise or sunset, and we went for sunset, and you just watch the sun just like sink below the clouds.
That's so cool.
And it's so cool. And then there's also the road to Hana on Maui, and I do have some beef with the road to Hana. I do. It's stunning. It's beautiful. You drive through it and you're on the coastline, and you can go and hike through the jungle and go to waterfalls, and there's the black sand beach.
That's beautiful.
So it's jam-packed with things. But what I didn't realize was the amount of curves on this road. I wanted to fact check myself because I'm like, I think I have a general idea, but it felt too high. So I did just Google it. There are 620 curves on the road to Hana and 50-some one-way bridges, okay? So you're driving. She could never survive. So you drive, and you drive, and then you turn, and then you drive, and then you turn, and then you drive, and then you're just constantly turning. And
so even people that don't get car sick get car sick.
Yeah, I mean, my family, honestly, they did okay. But I felt atrocious. Like, I felt so sick. And to make it even better, we did it almost 2 times. Because the first time we started this way, and then we went about halfway, and we ended up, like, turning around. And then the other time, we went around the other side of the island, and then we just did the whole thing. And it was like a double whammy for me.
Yikes.
But I know I can't really complain, because it was beautiful. Like, I can deal with it for, a day. But it was a little rough at times.
All right, so my next question for you is, what were like your youngest travels or like memories from traveling?
Yeah, so my first couple trips, I think I was like 2 and 4 years old, kind of around that age. So I don't have a lot of vivid memories from that. But I have been told some stories from those trips, which one of them I'll talk about now. The other one I will get to later. But we had some friends who had timeshare in Mexico, so that was kind of our spot we would go to. And so on one of these trips, I don't know how old I was on this one, But my family started to know that the like security around the resort was just getting upped and upped. And there were guards on like all of the floors. They were on top of the buildings. Like you could just view them from the top of the building. You could just see them up there. And there was a lot of high security. And we were just kind of like, what is going on? Like, this is strange. Well, we came to find out that there was some sort of gathering with all these like global leaders happening at our resort, which seems like a strange place to have it. Like just with all the tourists, you know. And so one day we were in the hot tub and there was these two guys and my family was, you know, just having a chat, and we came to find out, and it's so shocking that he would just be hot tubbing with the civilian level, you know, citizens, if you will. But we were in the hot tub with the president of Guatemala and his security guard.
Nice.
And it was just so casual, and he was just chatting things up. And I do believe there's a picture of it. I don't know where it's at. Otherwise, I would put it up to show. But he did invite us to his country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quick question. Was the security guard in the hot tub with him?
I think so.
Because that'd be so fun to just be security guard and you just like get to go hot tubbing and zip lining and like just do the activities.
I know.
That you're the person you're
And I don't ever see that happening in this day and age. But
no,
but back then they were a little more low key and chill. Yeah. He's not president anymore, so we can't take him up on his offer now.
Yeah, well, it's probably past. That was when you were like a literal baby child.
Yeah,
so,
yes. But that's just like kind of a fun story to pull out every once in a while because it's so random.
That's like, such a flex being like the president of a country invited us to like their homeland.
I know. For sure.
You're like, okay.
Yeah. So that's not like, I mean, it happened. It's not like a core memory in my life, but one that I do remember was when I was 7, and it was my birthday, and we were in Arizona, and we had seen the pink Jeeps advertised, and my family said, let's go do a pink Jeep ride in like Sedona for your birthday, and I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. And it was kind of one of those times where you're like grateful for the experience, but the motion sickness really took over, and even my brother too as well. He was having a rougher time than I was, but both of us were just like.
It's sad when it's like built up to be such a great thing, and then you're like, wait, this is not at all what I hoped for.
That is a memory that is locked in, you know. So I carry it with me.
That's so cute though. You had pink Jeeping on your birthday.
Jeep. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. All right, being someone who travels all the time, what is still on your bucket list?
I have so many things on my bucket list. Let's be so for real.
It's endless.
But as far as places I want to go, some of my like goals is Bora Bora. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Bora Bora? Like, I think we would all take a trip to Bora Bora. Greece is another place that I think would just be such a vibe. Like, that one's been on my list for a while.
Our phones are going to pick up all these locations we're talking about. And
oh my gosh.
We're going to be covered with
the algorithm.
Our algorithm is Greece videos, Bora Bora.
Yeah.
Oh, couldn't be me.
You really did call it. That's so going to happen. And then like Bali or Thailand, I think would be really cool to go to. Although I have heard lately about the Bali Belly, and I had never heard of this until recently. But apparently, I don't know if it's just from like water or something. When people go there, they get so sick to the point where like they have to have like people come in and give them like IVs and like.
Oh,
so it was like a little less. Enticing after I heard about that.
It's one of those like locations that is very romanticized. Yeah. So like everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'd
love to go to
Bali.
Also heard that it's super like cheap. Like it's super easy to afford because everything there. So I'm like, there's just a lot to consider. There really is.
Yeah. But I could probably afford to go with you to Bali.
You probably could.
But my stomach struggles here, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, mine as well.
You can take the risk.
You can try it. And then as far as like an experience, I have talked about this on the podcast before, but I want to go swimming with sharks and humpback whales. I just, like I said, I found this new appreciation and love for the ocean and the things inside of it, which I mean, I've always loved animals. Like when I was younger, my dream was to be a marine biologist, which can you imagine me now being a marine biologist?
Yeah, the biologist.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But like when I was younger, I was determined. That was my career. But anyway, And let me be so clear. Not great white sharks. I am not over here
doing like cage
diving with the greats. No, and cage
yeah.
diving sounds terrifying.
Oh my gosh. Well, especially after I've seen
47
movies about
meters
it,
down.
like 47 meters down,
Mhm.
I'm forever traumatized.
Yeah.
You'll never catch me in a cage.
But no, like the reef sharks, you know.
Yeah.
And just humpback with, like I use the word swimming with dolphins lightly because it was not like we were out and we were just getting up in their business and like, no, we were with a company and we were in the water and we were just like observing from a good distance.
Yeah.
And so we just got to like watch them interact and we could hear them communicate and it was so cool. Like once in a lifetime opportunity. And so I would love to do that with the sharks, of course.
I do think it would, like, for me, I've never been in a situation where I've been able to, like, appreciate the ocean in that sense. I've been in the ocean maybe a handful of times in my life, and it's been, like, we're literally on the beach and, like, playing in the white wall, like, the waves.
Yeah.
And so I've never, like, gotten to experience that side of it. So, like, I've just seen things about how, like, big and scary everything the ocean is.
Yeah.
But, like, I want to love it, and I feel like you said, when you are in that situation, it's like totally different. Like your mind is so
like,
much more
caught
calm,
up in it,
and it's like you're just not worrying about all those little things. So I feel like if I actually was put in that, I'll never know until I try it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could really enjoy it. It's just the fact that I'll never know until I do.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, and this is one we share, is surfing.
Oh yeah.
Like I have been surfing before.
Yeah.
I did. When I was in Waikiki, I surfed Waikiki, but it was I caught a couple waves and I thought in the moment it felt so cool and I look back at the videos and I'm like, oh, that's humbling. But I stood, I did, but
it counts.
But I want to like actually surf, like
actually
know how to do it.
And I feel like, well, one, I don't know why, like for years and years, like ever since I was a kid, there's something in me that's just like you're gonna surf one day. Like I always just wanted to surf so bad.
Surfer girl vibes.
Oh, I 100%. It's like I saw
you...
Soul Surfer and my life has changed. Like my dreams and goals were like one day I'm gonna surf. Obviously never to that level, but it's still something that's like right now we're very much landlocked. But I hope
for sure.
But I hope one day to live in a place that I'm either right by the ocean or I can do trips to the ocean where it's not like every 5 years I get to see it, you know?
Yeah.
And then I can actually like learn and work on that. Two, I find it shocking the amount of people that are like surprised, that are like, you want to learn how to surf? Why? Or they're like, oh, that just seems really scary or dangerous or pointless. And I'm like,
well, it's probably
not
because of
everybody
how much
shares
you have
that.
expressed your fear of sharks.
No, but it's like random people that I tell that are just like, why do you want to learn how to surf? I'm like, for the spirit of it, for the feeling.
Like the adrenaline of it all.
My For You page literally lately has been, you know how many surfing videos I see a day? They know how to target me. But from someone who has surfed and like sort of learned how to surf as an adult, is it harder than you expected?
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I'm kind of like I wasn't really sure if I would even get to the point of being able to stand up. So in some ways, I'm kind of surprised that within like an hour I was able to like get there.
Because I'm like, I feel like you learned
fast. That was also while I was with like the instructor, and then when I went out the next day for like another hour on my own,
nothing.
Like I didn't stand a single time. And it was so discouraging and defeating. You're just constantly like falling and getting like knocked off. So it is definitely harder than
And I feel like it's hard because it's not one of those like hobbies or like activities that you can just pick up so easily, because it's one that like you have to put in the work and put in the time, and eventually like obviously you'll progress, but it's not something you can just pick up fast. That I would think, at least.
I will also say, I mean, they do recommend when you're learning that you start with a long board. And when I went out the first time, I think I had like a 10-foot board. And when I went out the second time, there is such a thing as too long a board. There is. They had like nothing left, but it was like pretty much our last day, and I'm like, well, I have to use up my time. So I strutted out there with a 15-foot board.
I can't imagine trying to carry it.
I literally could not even. So that might have had some play to it, but no, you gotta know your board size.
15 foot is crazy. That's like okay, I'm only 5'7". That's almost 3.
That's
crazy.
It was wild. But yeah, those are my bucket list items.
Yeah, well, I hope you can achieve those one day. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. I just hope I can be there for
Yes,
that.
yes.
That's my bucket list.
We're going to dive in with those sharks together.
Yes. All right, so my final question for you is, like, what are your, like, worst travel horror stories?
I'm excited for this one. Honestly, I feel like I would have more than I do in terms of ones that actually ended up turning out tragically.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few. It did take me a bit to think, but I just had to think farther back.
Yeah.
I was like thinking the last couple years, and there hasn't really been a whole lot. But then once I started doing a little digging back into the past, they started coming back to me. So I have some that in the moment I was scared they were going to turn into, or they had the opportunity to turn into.
Yeah.
But did that make any sense?
That was like the same thing said twice. I swear.
It was okay, whatever. Anyway, so I have some that they turned out all right, but in the moment I couldn't. They could have, yeah. So the first one I thought about was one I mentioned earlier, the one I was going to bring back up. And that was when I was so young that, like, I don't have any recollection of it, which is probably good, honestly.
Yeah.
But when we were in Mexico, we were on this whale watching tour. So we're on this boat. Again, I was probably like 2 at the time, when all of a sudden our boat gets boarded by officials. You're not ready for this. And I texted my sister because I was like, I need to get this right. What did they have with them? And they did indeed have machetes.
That's terrifying.
So they board the boat with machetes, and everybody on the boat is like, okay, we're done. We're done now. And they just wanted to check on the permits of the boat.
Well, because you said they're officials, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I wouldn't think officials would, like, come on the board slashing everyone. I mean, still the presence of a machete is a little scary.
It's just, all they wanted to do was make sure it was legal. But it's like, why have such a, an aggressive oncoming,
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you said machete, because, like, to me, I thought you were going to say, like, guns or something, which doesn't make sense for the location. But, like, I'd much rather have someone with a gun than a machete. There's something about,
something about a knife.
Swords and knives that are far scarier than, like, a machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather they walk in with, a big, loaded, bulky gun than, like, a machete.
Yes, there's something so much more scary about that,
yeah,
honestly.
It's terrifying. And then
because I also feel like
it's
it's more normal for them to have, but to come on with, like, a giant sword,
what are you doing with that?
Like, yeah.
Do you ever plan on using that? That's terrifying.
So anyway, it turned out just fine, but in the moment, especially, like, when you're in a foreign country and you can't understand what they're saying, and, like...
At first, when you said you guys got boarded, I, like, instantly was like, pirates?
Well,
because, like, do you know that there is such a thing as, like, real-life pirates?
No.
It's obviously
and
not,
I mean,
like,
I
the
guess,
same
like,
as a movie,
I also
but...
don't know what their outfits looked like,
Yeah.
Like, they could have looked like pirates.
I see someone with a machete, I'm probably assuming it's a pirate over an official.
Yeah. So anyway, that was story number one. The second one, I remember this one quite clearly. This also took place in Mexico. And so the hotel we were staying at, we were on the 10th floor of it. So we're decently high up, and we were in our room for the night when all of a sudden we hear this loud noise and the building starts shaking. And we're sitting there like we're trying to go to sleep, and all of a sudden we like don't know what's going on. And there were like, my mom had a few scenarios running through her head of what could have just happened. So we get up and we instantly rush to the door and open the door like everyone else was doing. Yeah. And so now all of a sudden, like, all of us hotel guests are just popping our heads out the door being like, do you know what's going on? And none of us know what's going on.
Yeah.
And we're like, there was like a family across the room where the parents like weren't in the room at the time, so it was just like the kids. And they were like alone. And I'm like, I mean, not like little kids, but like teenagers.
It's
and
so
to not
scary.
have your parents. So we're just sitting there like waiting to know what's going on. And it was like an earthquake that had hit. And I mean, obviously it was pretty big because this massive building
was shaking.
But to my knowledge, it wasn't like a super destructive one where like
it was just felt by a lot of people, but probably not.
I don't think the city had a lot of damage. So again, it could have turned out a lot worse than it did. But again, in the moment, you're just sitting there like, what's happening? You know?
So remember when we had that conversation about icebreaker questions and like fun facts about you? You literally can say you've been in an earthquake and you're like, oh, I have no fun facts.
Oh,
I don't know.
Every time that question comes up,
But
I just
write that down because that's a good one. I don't think many people, at least here,
in this area,
can say they've been through an earthquake.
Yeah, I'll have to keep that one.
Yeah, sounds more dramatic than it probably was, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it was still scary.
Yeah, and I don't remember how old I was. I was probably like 6. So, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Another one I thought of was, this one didn't take long to de-escalate, but due to where the pauses were, my heart was sinking in the moment.
Yeah.
So we're on the subway and we stop at a station or whatever, and people are getting off and people get on. So some more people get on and the doors close and it starts taking off. And at this moment, there was a man standing at the front of it who starts making an announcement. And he says, hey guys, I want to get everybody's attention. So I just got out of prison. Stops right there. Just stops right there after prison. And we all start like looking around at each other.
Pause.
And we're like, why?
Yeah.
Like what? Is he gonna do something? Like,
yeah, most people don't
like want to announce that. Like they just want to like, okay, they're out now, they're gonna blend in. No, so fully announces it and then just goes, so because of that, I'm gonna sell snacks. Literally just says, I'm gonna sell some snacks because I wanna do better now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, amazing, but I feel like we could have come to that a different way.
People aren't gonna buy snacks from a random
You're
man,
right.
but from a just out of
You're
prison
right.
man.
But the way that like the places that he took his pauses were so.
But that could have been intentional because he's like, listen, fear me and support me.
Yeah.
Because you can't say no.
Yeah.
Whichever one it is.
Yeah. So it ended up being okay, but when you are literally locked into a subway car,
Oh my gosh.
that's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
I've heard
terrifying.
stories. I have. So.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, it did de-escalate within about a minute, but that was a scary minute, I will say. And then the last one that like could have turned bad was when we were on safari. And so there are definitely a lot of companies that like will go out for night drives and everything. But the one that we were with, the rule was like you have to be back at camp by sunset. Like you cannot stay up past. So this specific day was pretty like dreary and gloomy. And so it was already like it was getting darker quicker than normal already. But the sunset hour was approaching. And all of a sudden he didn't directly say it, but we were starting to read the room. And let me preface, we had a really great driver guide. He was really smart and knowledgeable and knew what he was doing, except for like in this exact instant. And we started to realize that we were very much lost. And he was getting his walkie-talkie out. He would like, when he saw other cars, he would like stop and roll his window down, and he's speaking in Swahili. So we have no clue what he's saying, but he's talking to them and he's looking at his map. And I'm like, he doesn't know the area that we're in.
Gosh, but imagine his fear.
Yes.
You're literally a bunch of people's lives.
Yeah.
In your hands and you're like, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And so we're just driving around, and I feel like we trusted him to the point where we were like, I'm sure it'll be fine. We're not gonna be lost out here forever. And he did eventually get back on the right path, and we made it back. But there was like a period of 30 minutes where we're just driving around, and it was just so evident that he wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, like you said, it turned out fine, but it could have turned out.
It could have turned out worse. Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 more, not horror stories, but stories along those lines that could have turned out worse than they did. And in the moment, we're like, what's going to happen? So both of them are when we were in Honduras. I believe it was like both of them were the last time when we went with a group of high school students. One of our students had gone into the gas station.
I forgot about this. Yes.
They have a guard outside the gas station with a machine gun, and he just kind of stands there, doesn't say anything. So like we didn't mind him, although he certainly demands a presence a little bit. But we're all just walking back out to the bus with our snacks, and then all of a sudden he stops one of our students. And apparently the issue was like he didn't have a receipt, and the security guard was like questioning whether he bought it or stole it, or I don't know why, because the rest of us, it wasn't an issue. We just walked right past. So then like one of the translators went out there, and then like the leader of the trip went out there, and it was just like a whole, which the student that went, he was like, they were like they're holding me at gunpoint, and I'm like, I don't think he was like aiming at you. He wasn't like fully like threatening you with a gun. But it certainly was a tense moment. That's like, it you could see it was escalating a little bit, and it was a little bit of like frustration, or like volumes raised a little, that were like what is gonna happen? He was just trying to buy snacks from a gas station, and then it like could have escalated a ton. And so luckily it did work out. I don't know how, because I wasn't like there for it. I just heard the story after the fact.
I wasn't there either.
I was just on the bus, who knows what, minding my own business, while right behind me is like one of our kids, like,
we were not being great leaders at that point, because we were so unaware.
We were helping with the other kids.
You're right, for sure.
And then the second one was when we were in Honduras, we had to have our passports on us at all times, just in case we were to get stopped, just so that we have like proof, because there were some, I don't totally know the political situation, but like the country's bias, there were some like refugees escaping from that, so they just wanted to make sure that everyone was in the country legally. And so one of the times our bus got stopped, and the guy was looking through all of our passports, and for some reason going through customs into the country, half of us didn't get our passports stamped. So like there's no proof of stamps from customs that we're like in the country legally. And so he was looking through them, and he was setting aside the passports that didn't have a stamp.
And I feel like mine might have been one of them, and I was sitting there terrified.
It was like, and so we had like somebody explaining, like the person from the mission house, he's like, well, here's why, like some of them just didn't get, and I don't know how long, but it felt like an eternity. And actually, so I don't remember if I did or somebody else did, but somebody snapped a photo, like I'm
pretty sure it was my mom.
I'm sure it was your mom. Because it's like, this moment was very tense, it was very terrifying, but it's also like, this is crazy. Like, we fully we're like, what happens if we can't get
are we
out
getting
of
detained?
Like, out of the country, So anyway, there's like a quick little like crooked photo in the hallway snapped as he's like deeply trying to find every page of the passports, being like, who didn't get stamps, and setting them to the side. And we're like, are only half of us gonna be able to like go home?
We were on our way to the airport.
That's right. So we were worried about being late to the airport and all that stuff. It was tense. It was just a very like we all felt it a little bit. So it worked out fine. I don't know why or how, but like they did just let us go, and it was fine. But that was like, are we all going to be able to go home together?
We have to contact the MC.
Yes,
I remember another one from Honduras.
Honduras has a lot of good ones. Listen, it's a great, safe country, at least that I feel, but we certainly have a lot of
We do. The last time I was there, the night before we were going to go out to one of our service sites, they were like, hey, so there's going to be some protests tomorrow. So we're going to just have you guys leave like an hour and a half early, just so that you get through it before it starts, you know? So we get up, and we're out of there by like 7 a.m. and we're driving in. All of a sudden, we just see crowds of people, and we're like, we're too late. Like, we didn't get here early. Like, they're going early. So we get to it, and they have like this massive like flag blocking the road, and there's all these people like waiting for their protest and riot to start. And our bus has to stop, and they are like letting no one through. And by this point, there's also vehicles starting to come behind us. So we're like kind of starting to get barricaded in. So we were there, and our little older bus driver is like going out into the crowds to try to speak to them, to speak to the leaders of the riot, to get us through. And I was like concerned. I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to him. And then one of the other guys who was working there was going out too, and they're all like trying to communicate to these people. So after a while, then the police come, and the police like are marching through, you know, they've got their stuff, and they were like looking at us, and I was like, are we like some, because the protests, what they were rioting, what they were rioting about had nothing to do with us. Like, it was something totally different. But I was like, are we somehow in trouble because of this? And they ended up, I don't know if it was the police that ended up actually helping us, or finally the bus driver got through.
Yeah.
But they ended up like telling the leaders, like, you need to let them through. Like, they are not a part of this. Like, this isn't their fault. But then as they were doing that, like, there were people who were not happy that we were interrupting, and they were like banging on our bus as we were driving through, and like they looked so mad at us. So that was definitely, I think it only ended up being like 45 minutes.
But I'm sure
it felt like so long, and we didn't know how long we were going to be there.
Which was probably so stressful for like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, side note though, is like Francisco, he's a little older. He's a little, like, he seems really sweet, and he is.
Yeah.
But he is a firecracker. I have seen that man drive. I have seen...
True. That is true. He can handle his
own. Yeah, for sure. So I'm like, I'm picturing him out there, and we're like, oh, sweet Francisco, and he's like, get out of the way. And like he certainly can demand a presence if he wants to.
Yeah, he can. But yeah. Okay, I think that wraps up those types of travel horror stories. Okay, so another type of travel horror stories, in my opinion, is travel delays or cancellations. So the first one I thought of was when we were coming home from Italy. It was our last day. We were in Rome, and we were at this little coffee shop. It was like a view of the Colosseum. We're enjoying our cappuccino when all of a sudden our phones connect to the Wi-Fi, and we get a notification from the airline that's like, your flight has been canceled. And we're like, oh, okay. Thanks for letting us know, I guess. And so we were trying to look at the details of it, and like they hadn't sent us anything about that they rebooked us or anything like that. And we're like, okay. So we had gone back to like the apartment we were staying at for lunch, and we were trying to figure it out and call the airline, and we were on hold forever. And we're like, all right, it's our last day here. Let's just go out, enjoy the final day, and we'll deal with it when we get back tonight.
It's a little hard to do, probably.
Yeah, so we go out, we finish our day, we come back that night, and we finally are able to get a hold of an agent on the phone. So we're explaining the situation to her, and she's like, so I have it pulled up, and the flight is still on schedule. Like, it wasn't canceled. Like, I don't know why they sent you the email, like, you're still on time for departure. So yeah, just go tomorrow and you're good. And we were questioning it. We're like, that's odd, but all right. I mean, what else are we gonna do? Like, they're telling us that it's fine. So we get up early the next morning. Like, as Taylor would say, it's the butt crack of dawn. We get our ride, we get to the airport, we finally get to the counter, and the guy we're giving him our information, and he looks at the screen, and he looks up at us, and he's like, so your flight's canceled. Like, why are you here? And we're like, that's interesting, because actually we knew that, but then we were told that it's still good. So that is indeed why we are at the airport. And he's like, well, no, it's not. So it's definitely canceled. We're gonna have to rebook you. I'm like, okay. So for about 20-30 minutes, he and another gate agent are just scrolling away. They're typing away. They're on the phone, and they're like, there's really not a lot of flights out. So the best we can do is get you up tomorrow. We'll get you a hotel, some food vouchers, and you just leave tomorrow. And so, of course, it's like a little inconvenient because you've been through the process of getting there, but we're also like, okay, I mean, a free day in Italy. Yeah. Like, we can't complain. It's fine. So the next day, we go back to the airport, we get on our flight, and we make it back to America. Fantastic. And that's when things start to go really south. So we get through customs, and we had like a 9 p.m. flight to Minnesota. So we get on the flight, and we're sitting, and we continue to sit, and we do some more sitting, and we have been just waiting, and there's no update, and we're like, what is taking so long? Like, can we just go? Like, we're tired. It's been a long day. And all of a sudden they come to the intercom, and they're like, so guys, the plane's having some mechanical issues and it can't fly. So we need you guys to deboard and then go to the ticket counter, and we'll get you rebooked on a flight tomorrow morning. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And at this point, this is when the positivity was starting to drain. Which, again, I know that being able to travel and go on trips is a privilege. So I understand that it comes with the territory. You have to accept that you're going to have some problems.
Travel days are just exhausting to begin with. So
but they're exhausting, and it's the week of Christmas. Like, we just want to be home at this point. So we get in line, and we wait there for so long. Like, there's so many people. They're having to, like, that would be such a stressful job, trying to get all of that organized.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they give us our stuff and they're like, okay, so here's your hotel voucher and you're just going to use your same boarding pass tomorrow. Like the same. And we're like, that's really weird.
Doesn't
like,
seem right.
You need a new, and they're like, nope, everybody, it's simpler. You're just going to use the same boarding pass. It'll be fine. And we're like, okay. So we like go out, we're waiting for our hotel shuttle, which we're in Philadelphia. And can I just say, I'm not a fan of the Philadelphia airport. We get to the hotel and it's like a well-known hotel, so you would think it's fine, but we could just tell it was kind of in a sus area, a little sketch. And then we get up to our hotel and I open the door and it just smells like weed. And I'm like, no, it's so strong. It's not like our North Carolina room where it was a little doable. Like, it was really strong. So my dad goes back down, we get a new room. All of a sudden I went to the bathroom and this is where I just lost it because I was just like, what now? The room had not been cleaned. Like, I guarantee you it had not been cleaned because I go to the bathroom and I turn on the light and there's just a blood skid mark in the toilet. Like, how do you miss that? Like, how do you miss that?
Yeah.
You don't. And so at this point I went over to the bed and I just laid down and I just had a mental breakdown and I started crying. And then I went to sleep. And then I got up.
I feel like I remember you sending me a video.
Yeah, no, because my sister was filming me.
Oh, that's that one.
Yes.
I'm fully aware.
So we get up the next day and we go back to the airport and there's this massive line at security. It's so long. We're of course running into all of our other passengers and at this point we're kind of in it together. It's like, oh man, yeah, hopefully today goes better, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're moving along. We finally get up to the TSA. And it's just, everyone was so cranky. Like, it's a few days before Christmas.
Yeah.
But the merry spirit was not there.
There's probably no worse place to work around Christmas time than an airport.
The Christmas cheer was nowhere to be found in that airport. And so we show our boarding tickets and the TSA agent goes, we can't let you through with these. Like, you can't use a boarding ticket for a non-existent flight. And we're like, well, of course we know that, but we were told to use the same, like, they never sent us anything else. They said it'll be fine. And he went, no, we can't do that. So you're gonna need to go back down to the check-in counter and get a new boarding pass.
Yeah.
So we go down there and there was actually somebody else from our flight and we tell them the situation and they're like, so wait, they didn't end up emailing you new tickets? And we said, no, we checked every inbox we had, there's no new tickets. And they're like, oh yeah, so no, they sent them last night. So they just forgot us, I guess.
Yeah.
And for some reason they couldn't give us new boarding passes. I don't remember what it was, but they were like, we're just gonna send TSA an email and basically give you guys a pass. But you have to wait to go through until they receive that email. So you're going to just wait up there kind of by the side of TSA and they'll come get you when they've got it. And I'm like, we waited up there for so long and people were coming over and just like not being nice about it and just, I'm like, it's not our fault. Like, we're doing the best we can. And they were also supposed to just escort us through so we didn't have to wait in line again. And they did not. They finally got it and they just sent us back through the normal line. So we waited again. And we finally got on the flight. The flight attendant was like, yeah, so if this would have happened one day later, I guarantee you would not have gotten home before Christmas. And I'm like, great. So we did eventually get home 3 days after we were supposed to.
Yeah.
So it was just not the most ideal travel
sounds
situation.
a little tiring.
And then the last one is one that Kayla and I both experienced together. So you can jump in on this as you want.
Yeah.
But on our first trip to Honduras, we had we got to the airport and we had just said goodbye to everybody and we were just so emotionally fragile already. And so we get through customs, we get to our gate, and we're like supposed to be leaving when all of a sudden over the intercom they tell us, the flight coming in from Dallas is delayed, so by the time that they get here and you would get back to the US, like, customs is going to be closed, so you're going to be stranded.
Yeah.
So then what did we have to do?
Well, because I know for a brief point they're like, do we just like stay overnight in the airport? And then they're like, well, no, we can't. But that means you have to go back through customs to get back in. Yeah. Right? So then we had to go back through customs in the airport just to go outside the airport. And then we ended up not getting outside the airport for a very long time.
We were in this line at the ticket counter for hours. Like, there's this massive
And typically
line.
when you're in a line, it moves.
This
line snaked around. We did not inch forward once.
No. And we honestly, we were making the best of the situation. Like, we were chatting, we were trying to play games. Luckily, the staff that were with us hadn't gotten far, so they like literally came back and just waited with us in this 24-hour journey we were about to embark on.
Yeah, and can I also say, man, were we blessed to not be the people that have to take care of it, because the leader of our trip was out there, and he was like talking to so many different people, trying to figure it all out, trying to know like what's going on, get the mission crew back, and like try and get us food.
And then after hours, they finally started moving, and they were like, all right, we got you a new flight, we're gonna get you hotel vouchers for the night.
Yeah.
Which at this point I was like, let's just stay here. Like, I feel like it would be so much simpler. But they're like, no, we're gonna send you to Tegucigalpa, which is the capital city of Honduras.
It was like an hour away?
Like an hour and a half away. But we arrived, and it's a party city, man. There is a party going on everywhere.
There were lights everywhere, people everywhere. We're like, hey.
And we get there, and I didn't know what we were gonna be sent to. Honestly, I was like, like where we're gonna go.
Last minute, like late at night, they're just trying to get us a hotel.
Oh my god, 5-star hotel.
I've never ever been to a nicer hotel than in a third world country.
Like literal suites. This is not your standard room with a queen size bed.
Yeah.
No, there was like 2 king size beds.
And weren't they like insisting that everybody get a room to themselves?
Yes, because like I said, these have massive beds. There's a whole living room. There's a whole bar area. They're huge.
It's like as big as my apartment.
Literally.
For a hotel room.
Literally.
Almost. It was insane.
And there's 22 of us plus all the other people that had been sent there. And we're standing again in another big line. And about half of our group had gone. Like, I think you and Taylor.
Because I remember I have a video of when I walked in the hotel room and I was like, oh my gosh. So then I have like a video of like, oh my gosh, guys, look at the windows and the bathroom. Then I get a call from you guys and you're like.
No. So like half of our group had gotten through, and we get to the last like 10 of us or something. And I'm going to paraphrase, of course, but they basically are like, so sorry, guys, but there's no room left at the end. Like, we're totally booked. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you to a different hotel, and you guys can it's midnight. You guys can just walk over there, you know, and they'll get you all taken care of. And we said, we won't be doing that. No. But they were so insistent because like that, again, like you said, they would only allow one person
per room. How insane is that?
Because they wanted their hotel vouchers. Like, they wanted to be able to cash it in for the airline. So if they couldn't even use all the vouchers, like, they weren't going to get the money anyway. So after all this, like, talking, and the staff were trying to help, they finally came to an agreement. And they were like, okay, we'll let it slide, and you guys can go pile in rooms together.
2 people in a room.
If you don't give us your vouchers, we'll be calling immigration.
They literally like threatened.
And I'm like, first of all, why wouldn't we agree? Like, what does it matter to us?
Have our vouchers.
But second of all, that escalated far more than it needed to.
Yeah.
And so we are like figuring out who can go into whose room. Also, we have like 6 staff people who weren't on a flight, so they don't
get vouchers. So we're trying to like sneak them into rooms because like otherwise, what on earth are they going to stay on the bus? Yeah. Like, that's not safe. And so we're trying to like get everybody situated when like half the people are already situated, and then trying to like rearrange everything. It was a mess. And like she said, it was literally the middle of the night.
Yeah. Like,
it was like midnight, 1 in the morning.
Yeah. But
it was an early morning.
We made our way back to the airport, and we did finally get home. But
that was quite a trek. And
which honestly, it was fun in so many ways.
It was.
Because of the people that were there, and just like, we all just did the best we could with what we had. But at the same time, I don't ever need that to happen again.
No, but honestly, like, I wouldn't take that back.
Yeah.
Like, if our flights could have all gone well, I still wouldn't have wanted them to. Because it's like, you're doing it for the memories. And man, was that quite a memory.
It was.
And it was just like, the experiences that came out of that. It was just like so fun. But like, in the moment, you are exhausted. You are. I like literally remember as they're trying to get us all the hotel vouchers, and we've been there for hours and hours and hours on end. And the like mission house people brought us pizza. Oh. And the way that pizza, I was sitting on the floor of an airport. We're all just feasting on the floor. Mm-hmm. It has never hit any more than that pizza hit. It was like a supreme pizza with like mushrooms and olives and all the things I don't like, and I've never tasted a better pizza in my life.
Yeah, no, also like the staff who are with us, you know, they'll always take the groups back to the airport, and after that experience, now they always bring an overnight bag just in case history repeats itself.
Which is smart.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, that was super, super interesting. And by that point, like the second time around, it wasn't so bittersweet. The goodbyes were like, okay, Buy for real this time.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, we're going. And I don't think there were as many tears involved.
No.
So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you remember that when we were trying to get back this last time, though? Not your last time, my last time.
Oh, yes.
When we literally thought we were going to have to split up into, like, groups of 2 and, like, just send the kids on their own flights. I don't remember what went wrong there. What happened?
I think, like, we had a flight canceled or something.
Yeah, there was either a flight canceled or we weren't able to. I feel like it was canceled. And we spent so long, the 2 adults in the group spent so long going back and forth with the agent at the booth trying to figure out, as we're all over there, and like, we're supposed to be leaders and have a positive attitude, but I'm over here stressing because they're like, yeah, we're just gonna send you on a flight with some students and like try and make it home. I don't know how to navigate airports. Like, I've never been more stressed. And so then they just had a waiting list, and then they were able to put 2 more on the flight and then just a couple more. So like, not all of us were able to make it back together on one flight, but most of us were, to the point where like there was an adult on each flight. Yeah. So, but I remember that being a very stressful time. And then we had to like go to dinner that night because obviously we were hungry, and I think was it at our hotel? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just an interesting time. Yeah, I've almost never had a trip that I haven't had flight issues. Like, one time we were taking my mom to Texas, and then we were like on the phone trying to talk about the flights and adjust them, and they went, okay, we just canceled your flights for you. And we said, what? He's like, yeah, I just canceled them. I was like, we didn't want them canceled. He's like, yeah, you just said so. And I'm like, I promise you, we did not ask for you to cancel those flights. Get them back. He's like, oh, can't. And we spent the next like week straight, and it was like right before the trip, trying to figure out how on earth to get a flight.
It's so stressful.
Or we're gonna have to literally cancel everything. Yeah, he's just like, yep, don't worry, we got it canceled for you. I was like, why? Literally, like, I remember like crying in a hallway, being like, why would you do that? And he's like, you told me. I was like, I literally swear I did not. I hope this phone call is recorded. Oh my gosh, the amount of trauma, because that's when Hannah and I were like literal kids. We were like 18 and 19 trying to figure out these flights. We had no experience, and that man took me to my breaking point.
It doesn't take much, but
yeah. So flights are always a little iffy. I have major trust issues with airlines, but also you can't not use an airline when you're going places. So you just kind of gotta live with the outcomes, and honestly, it makes for great stories and great experiences.
And Kayla and I, we will share at some point soon a venture that we're going to be going on together. Yes. And the stories from that.
Oh, I'm so excited.
We're going to have a lot to share.
I'm so scared.
But anyway, I think that wraps up.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was fun to hear, because I didn't even know all those stories. Yeah. And man, have you lived a life.
Yes.
Yes.
But anyway, see you next.
So
one day we will get it right.
So with that, we'll see you next time.